I'll tell you this, the podcast was probably, I don't know if I could call it the smartest thing, but definitely up there for one of the smartest things I've ever done. And the reason is a few. Okay. Number one, with the podcast, unlike other content, you get the opportunity to invite people, right? So it's like other content, which I do. It's like me solo and I do the content, and it's fine. But when somebody comes on my podcast, we do them all live. It's a way to like build a relationship. And so all these people come in and they see our offices, they see the people working, all this stuff, and like, wow, okay, this guy's like legit. I didn't realize he had all this going on. And then we film the show, we build rapport, it's great. And inevitably, assuming everything goes well, like we become friends. And it's from there that anything can happen. I mean, when you're interviewing high level people, um, the opportunities are endless.
Hey, this is a quick shout out from one of our awesome sponsors. Check this out. Thank you to Tracy down at Tranquil Turtle Massage in downtown Coeur d'Alene. Look, my wife and I, we see Tracy and her team every single month for couples massage, and it is the best thing. Tracy is a master massage specialist and a Hanu Ashiatu trainer. You need to reach out to Tracy and her team. Make sure that you tell them that I sent you, and you'll get $25 off your next massage. Also, while you're there, check out CDA Brows, Body, and Ink. Make sure to tell Tracy that I sent you, and you'll save $100 on your next tattoo, brows, and plasma tightening services. Ryan, you're a husband, you're a father, you're an entrepreneur that has founded 6 different 7 to 8 figure businesses. You're a former minor league baseball player, podcast host, so much more, man. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
I like to kick things off by going back a bit. Where did you grow up and what was childhood like for you?
I mean, I grew up right here in Vegas, so born and raised, one of the few. I left to go play baseball for many years and go to college and all that, but I always came back, and I love Vegas. So, growing up in childhood, a lot of people think like, man, was it crazy? Vegas is so bad and all this stuff. But, my parents, they did a great job raising me and giving me, all the tools to succeed. They're still married to this day. I grew up in the church. I grew up with an entrepreneurial mindset. My dad was he owned a convenience store, and then my mom was a realtor. And, they kind of just like empowered me to do what I wanted. So, I wanted to play baseball. And so they got me all the best coaches and, found a way to get me to the tournaments and the showcases and everything that, we needed to do to make that a reality. So, growing up, I mean, I got nothing but great things to say about how my parents raised me.
Yeah. Man, what a cool thing, man, that they were able to get you to all those tournaments. I played baseball for about 10 years up until the end of high school and, like competitive softball after that for a couple of years. But, I mean, you were actually drafted by the Oakland A's, their minor league team. You even played in the World Baseball Classic. I worked for baseball minor league team for about 2 years. It was awesome. But I know the players don't make much. Like, what was that experience like for you playing in the minor leagues?
Yeah. It was tough, man. Like, I knew going into it I wasn't going to make money. Like, you just know. So I was already kind of mentally prepared for it, but it's a totally different game, man. I mean, when you're growing up and you're the best player on your high school team, then you're the best player on your college team, and then you get to pro baseball and you're like, wow, dude, this is the best player from not only everyone's team, but also the world. These are now it's a worldwide game. And, the competition level is just so much greater. And so you got to keep rising up to the occasion. On top of that, you have to actually be an adult. So, it's a job.
Totally.
You got to stay in shape. If you go out and party that night, you're going to pay the penalty the next day. You got to deal with pressure. You got to deal with fans talking crap. You got to deal with politics. You don't know if you're going to play that day or not. It's very different than a normal job where it's like you show up to work, you know what job you have. Like baseball, we don't know what the lineup card is going to be that next day. So there's so much uncertainty in pro sports that it's unlike, I think, any other career field where it has a very defined lifespan, right? It's like, dude, you can only play from this age to this age. After that, you're done, right?
Yeah.
It has a very like cutthroat mentality of, hey, if you're not getting the job done, there's somebody else, below you who wants your job, or somebody on the bench who wants your job. That's just the way it is. So I had to develop a lot of, I guess, mental strength or whatever you would call it to deal with all these different things. And I mean,
Yeah.
granted too, I was 21 when I got drafted. So you got to like learn these things at a very young age.
Totally. And that's when you got into real estate, right? About the same time you were 21 years old, getting into real estate there. When I was 21, I was getting stoned and drinking all the time. But like
Yeah.
for you, like, and you mentioned your mom was in real estate. Was she the one that kind of influenced you to go get into real estate at that time?
She never wanted me to get into real estate. And it wasn't ever like a conversation in our house where it's like, you got to own rental properties. And like, that was never a thing. It was always like, Ryan, just play baseball, focus on that, and then you'll make money. The rest will figure itself out. So
Yeah.
I was never like influenced to try and be an entrepreneur or go into real estate, even though that's what my parents did. I was just focused on baseball. But I also knew, this was 2010. So we were just like at the bottom after the Great Recession. And so my parents were in really bad shape financially. We lost the home I grew up in. My dad lost all of his convenience stores. My mom's realtor business like came to a halt. She couldn't sell a house. So like it was a really dark time for our family, especially after growing up like middle class. And I just knew, I was like, man, I mean, if I'm only going to make $1,200 a month, like they can't support me anymore. They did support me throughout college and high school and all that, but I can't rely on them. So I need to figure out how to make money. And I had another dilemma of, well, I'm also going to be gone like 6 months out of the year playing baseball. And I need a job that's flexible where I can still practice and do the things I got to do that are like the important things for my baseball career. And so, I just, as I looked at it, I was like, being a realtor kind of like allows me to do that. I can just, do it when I want. I don't have a boss. I can leave and go play baseball and come back and do it. So it was just like the most obvious thing to do, given my circumstance. It's not like I wanted to do it or liked it. It was just like, this is what I have to do. This is the only choice to balance.
Yeah. So good, dude.
Yeah.
I saw a video that you had posted on Instagram a few weeks back. You talked about these 3 pillars that people really need to take to get wealthy. And these were so good there. But what are those 3 pillars and which one would you recommend that folks start with?
Are you talking about make, manage, multiply? Which one are you talking about?
I'm sorry. Yeah, it was entrepreneurship was one, and then the other one was influence.
Yep. Yeah. So basically, like if you want to become wealthy, there are multiple ways to do it, right? So entrepreneurship is definitely one of them, right? I mean, some of the most successful people in the world have done it because they started businesses, right? Jeff Bezos didn't become, ultra rich from social media or working a job. He did it because he started a business. So that's one way. The second way is from influence. Now, this really wasn't a thing until social media came along, but man, I mean, some of the biggest, richest people in the world are rich, not because they were such great entrepreneurs, but they were great at getting influence. And, when I look at guys like Mr. Beast, when I look at guys like Logan Paul and Jake Paul and what these guys are doing because of their massive influence, you look at the Kardashians, that granted, all of them are now great entrepreneurs, but they started out on the influence side. Then they became entrepreneurs. And that's what you see with so many of these, celebrities doing now. It's like The Rock has tequila now, and Kevin Hart has all these things. And, George Clooney sold Casamigos. And so like they all realize they need to use their influence to go sell products, and they got to own the products. They need to quit being, just like a sponsored person or, somebody who's just getting paid. Like they got to have ownership. That's how you make real wealth. So influence gets you there. And then the last one is just investing. I mean, you can invest your way into becoming wealthy, even if you just have a normal W-2 job and you're not influential, but you go make, let's just say $100K a year, which in today's world isn't a lot of money. But, if you could figure out how to live off the 100K and save a bunch of it and then start investing it every year. Obviously my preferred choice is real estate. I mean, if you buy a house a year, okay, if you just saved up every single year and bought one house, I mean, the next 20 years, you're going to have 20 homes. I mean, you're going to be a multi-millionaire, and you're going to be wealthy. So it's just going to be a slower grind. But you'll get there. Now, the people who have all 3, I mean, then you're just like what they call the triple threat in Hollywood, right? What is the triple
Yep.
like the triple threat in Hollywood is you can sing, you can dance, you can act. In business, it's you have influence, you're a great entrepreneur, and you're a great investor.
Man, so good. So good. I love that you're so open with your faith when you're talking on posts. And I think a lot of people, they tend to shy back on that. And for me, I gave my life to Christ when I was 24 years old. I came out of a crazy broken home and all of that craziness.
Yeah.
But for you, like, how did you said you grew up in the church, but was there a moment that you're like, man, I'm giving my life to Christ right now? What was that testimony for you?
Yeah, it's funny because we do so much now with the church, and just like I've had my own Bible study here at my office for the last 5 years, and now
Awesome.
we've got a community called Wealthy Kingdom where I'm trying to bring together Christian entrepreneurs to grow in their faith, grow in their business, grow in their family. So I've been doing a lot lately, and I've like I said, I grew up in the church. Ever since I can remember, I was going to church since I was 4 years old, and
Wow.
when I tell people my testimony, it's kind of boring because there was no like rebellion stage where I was like, I grew up as one of these church kids, and then like I went to college and went nuts, and I had to come back. Like that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like I was always a pretty strong believer, even in college and pro baseball. It's funny, like my wife, I've maybe told the story a couple of times, but like my wife and I, we got engaged when she was 19 and I was 23 or 20. Yeah, probably 23. And, she was the only girlfriend I ever had,
Okay.
and it's not that I couldn't get girls. Like I could get girls. That wasn't a problem. It was just that I knew like I wasn't just messing around. Like if I was going to like seriously find a spouse, I wanted them to be a believer. I wanted them to, like if it wasn't going to lead to marriage, it was a waste of time. And
Yep.
so basically I was one and done, and it was good.
Come on.
So, as far as my testimony goes, it's like, I got baptized finally when I was 18, but I was a believer long before that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean like, obviously I'm definitely not perfect. I've had plenty of ups and downs in my life dealing with different struggles and everything else. But, yeah, dude, God has had his hand on my life for as long as I can remember.
I think that your testimony is an amazing testimony in itself, man. I mean, to be able to stay the path that you're on that whole time, man, what that's an amazing testimony that can, impact a lot of people, man. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your event, man. This is awesome. You've got WealthCon coming up. It's in Las Vegas, July 11th through the 13th. The speaker list is like stacked. For those who don't know, like what's this event about? Who are some of the speakers and how can folks get there?
Yeah. So, it's an event on, like you said, July 11th to the 13th here in Vegas. We've got guys like Brad Lee, from you guys probably seen his podcast and stuff. He's crazy. And then we have like
I love
Brandon.
Brad.
We have Brandon Turner, who I would call the anti-Brad Lee. He's the host of the Bigger Pockets podcast for many, many years, has 10,000 units right now. And then
Wow.
we've got Dan Martell, who's exited a bunch of companies, SaaS wizard. We've got, social media creators. We've got big real estate people. We've got just entrepreneurs that are absolutely killing it. So, the speaker list is huge. And, just like the content's going to be amazing. If you're an entrepreneur or a real estate investor, this is the event for you. Like there's no reason not to be here. And then also too, like with our events, because we throw events a lot, our experience is something we really focus on. At the end of the day, content is content, and you're going to get a lot of content, but more value is usually had in the experience and the networking. And so we have, after parties, we have cocktail hours, we have like, it's not an event that's like from 9 to 5. It's like from, the moment you arrive till like 3 days later when you leave. It's just nonstop.
Awesome.
So they're amazing, and that's why people keep coming back. And we're just fortunate that we've gotten pretty good at throwing them, and people love them. So we're gonna keep doing it.
Come on. So good. Yeah. Brad's a good dude. I was a guest on Dropping Bombs about a year ago, and
Okay.
He's been on my show before as well, man. And just that list of speakers you got at this event, man, it's gonna be life changing for a lot of folks. Now you have success, you've got money, you've got a great family. What is it that keeps you going at this point in life, though?
Good question, man. Look, there's a lot of things that happen as you, I guess, have more success, right? I think you keep climbing the ladder of what fulfills you, right? So obviously the faith side's always been there, but it's hard to be like, man, I'm just solely like, whatever God wants for me, I'm going to do it when you're like broke and you don't have a lot. So it becomes tough. And so I remember when we first got married, we were completely broke, and we were living in a small apartment. I did not have a career. I'd just gotten released by the Oakland A's. So I was like, man, this baseball thing, I thought that was the thing my
Sure.
entire life. And it's probably not the thing now, if I'm being real. And I had already failed as a real estate agent. I realized I hated that. And literally the only thing I was doing to make money was I was substitute teaching, making $90 a day. And it was just like my wife was in college and all this. And, I just remember sitting there, like having just got married and kind of like having this guilt that I'm like, man, I need to like step up and be a better provider. It's one thing when I
Mhm.
was like a broke minor leaguer on my own and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
another thing when I have to provide for a wife and like give her an amazing life. And so, that kind of led me down the path of entrepreneurship. And my first successful entrepreneur endeavor was couch flipping. And it's funny because 10 years later I start doing YouTube videos about it, and like that's what really popped off and like really got me off the map or on the map pretty quickly. And that was my first successful business. I was making about $8,000 a month net from it.
Wow.
And I was like, man, this is great. I'm finally like, we're balling, making this
Yeah.
money. Like we really were like balling for us. And, you know, that kind of like satisfied that first need of like, man, okay, we're good. I've provided for us. That was my main focus. Then, I get into house flipping shortly thereafter, and I take more big risk. I start maxing out our credit cards. I start, getting these high interest loans, and I don't obviously know if I'm gonna do it right or not, but it ends up working out obviously. And
Yeah.
we made 25 grand the first deal, and I was like, wow, this is more money than I've ever seen like in a month on a single thing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, the possibilities here are endless. I mean, what if I just bought one house a month and that's 250 grand? That's where my mind was at the time. And, I ended up doing that my second year. We bought 20, but, we only sold a handful of them. And I think if we made about $200,000, and I was like, dude, I've made it. This is freaking crazy, guys. Like, I can't believe I've made this much money. This was back in 2016. And, I tell people that because it's like, man, it was only 6 years ago or so that I made $100,000 for the first time, and from there, the next year we ended up making 750 grand flipping houses. And,
Wow.
it was at that point that I was really able to like start helping, beyond just my family. Right. So,
Mhm.
shortly thereafter, we ended up buying my parents a house. We ended up buying her parents a house, and, all this cool stuff. And it was great. After, really providing for everyone around us now, they call that like stage two of like, okay, you first provide for yourself, then you're able to go start providing for your immediate family and those around you. And I was able to create jobs for my family and friends. So it was really cool. But then the third stage is, and it's where, you see a lot of these billionaires and stuff live in, is like, man, okay, what's next? Like money is not the issue anymore. So how do I make an impact on the rest of the world, not just those around me? And,
Yeah.
for me, social media is the easiest way to do that, because it's like, man, how else could you reach a massive amount of people? Social media is like the perfect tool. Obviously you can reach people in your business and everything else, but social media is like the top of the funnel that gets people into your businesses and all those things that can really help them, and into events like WealthCon, for example.
Right.
So, that's kind of like the stage that I'm at, is like, okay, well, obviously we want to continue to build more businesses. We want to make more money, but, what kind of impact are we going to have with the resources we have today? Because we have way more resources today than we did 5 years ago. If I have a good sized social media following, what am I doing with the videos and the content to like change people's lives? If we have
Right.
the opportunity to start a business or a program, whatever, like, is this going to really help people or not? And if it's not, then do we even really want to do it, even though it can become a great business? So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where my mind's at, is like, it is about helping people. The other side of the coin is too, like, what else am I going to do? Like,
Yeah.
people, if people talk about wanting to retire early, that sounds like a nightmare. If I was just
Totally.
retired and I didn't do anything and I'm 34 years old, like, I'd be living with no purpose. It'd be stupid, So,
Yeah.
and I love to golf. Don't get me wrong, but if I was just to golf every day with my old retired buddies, which by the way, they'd all be old because there's no young retired people to hang out with. They're all working.
Sure. Totally.
Like, I see the old retired guys. Like, it's cool. You lowered your handicap a little bit, but it's meaningless.
Right. Yeah. Come on, man. That's so good, dude.
Yeah.
I love that, man. I want to talk real quick about your podcast, the Wealthy Way podcast. I always love talking to other podcasters there. I've been doing this thing since 2017 there. But for you, like, how has having a podcast helped you in your business?
Dude, I love the podcast, man. I started it back in 2021. And it's done really well. We've had some amazing guests, and, super grateful for the podcast. And we keep upgrading the quality, the sets, it's just everything. We're just trying to get better every day at it. But I'll tell you this, the podcast was probably, I don't know if I could call it the smartest thing, but definitely up there for one of the smartest things I've ever done. And the reason is a few. Okay. Number one, with the podcast, unlike other content, you get the opportunity to invite people, right? So it's like other content, which I do. It's like me solo and I do the content, and it's fine. But when somebody comes on my podcast, we do them all live. It's a way to like build a relationship. And so all these people come in and they see our offices, they see the people working, all this stuff. And like, wow, okay, this guy's like legit. I didn't realize he had all this going on. And then we film the show, we build rapport. It's great. And inevitably, assuming everything goes well, like, we become friends. And it's from there that anything can happen. I mean, when you're interviewing high level people, the opportunities are endless, and
Right.
so I've been able to have a lot of the people that come on my show speak at WealthCon, and they do it willingly. I haven't had to pay anyone to come speak at my events. Like, they do it willingly,
Wow.
because of the relationship we've built. We do business opportunities. Some of the people I've ended up partnering with, some of them invest with me. The business side of it is that the opportunities are endless. And then, you build one relationship with somebody and then they introduce you to somebody else that, you've wanted to meet. And so it's a really cool thing. The second reason it's great is for me, I learn a lot from these guests. Like, I'm just asking them questions that I want to
Yeah.
know selfishly. Right. I'm like, yo,
Totally.
how did you do this? Okay, let's go. Like, I need to understand it better because I want to go apply it. So, the learning aspect is great. And then I would say, the third thing is it's easy for me to do them. I can just hop on a podcast and talk. I don't have to prep. I don't have to like script. It's just let's roll. And it's an easy way for me to make content. Whereas, other videos and stuff, it's like, man, okay, but what's the topic going to be? How do we want to position this? Like, when are we going to say that? Like, it's very, scripted to a degree versus a podcast has really no script. And I love that.
Right.
I love free flowing, and it's less work on my end. And, all in all, I think the podcast, I'm just talking about it from my own personal perspective of why I like it, but I think it also creates the most impact too. It's like, we do a ton of reels and TikToks and all that stuff, but how much are you really going to learn in 30 seconds,
Sure.
versus you go watch a show for an hour to 2 hours, like, you're going to really learn something. And I think the audience just has, it's just a better effect on the audience. And, if you're changing lives, with your content, your podcast, then inevitably they're going to work with you some way in business.
Yeah. Oh, so good, man. So good. I absolutely love that, man. Ryan, you're an absolute world changer, man. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and joining me on the show today, man. I know that people are going to get impacted. Hopefully people get out there and don't miss WealthCon. And man, just excited and honored to have you on the show, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, man.
Thank you so much for checking out the show today. I really appreciate it. I hope that my guest was able to bring you some amazing wisdom and knowledge to help you continue to fight for your goals, your dreams, and your purpose. If you could do me one big favor and just hit that subscribe button, I would so appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. Keep changing the world. I believe in you. Have an amazing day.